It was a night meant for fun and adventure. A group of 5 friends, Myrna, Alex, Sarah, John, and Rachel, had decided to take a spontaneous road trip to celebrate the end of their college semester. Laughter and music filled the air as they drove down winding roads under the moonlit sky. However, their joyous night took a sinister turn when their car broke down in the middle of nowhere, right next to the edge of an ominous-looking forest. As they tried to get a signal to call for help, they noticed a narrow path leading into the forest. With no other option and the promise of finding a shortcut to the nearest town, they decided to venture into the woods, hoping to find assistance or at least a clearer signal. With only their flashlights to guide them, the group stepped into the dense forest. The trees loomed overhead, their branches intertwining to block out the moonlight, casting eerie shadows on the ground. The air was thick and filled with the sound of rustling leaves and distant, unidentifiable noises. Despite their initial bravado, an unsettling feeling began to creep in. As they walked deeper, they stumbled upon old, faded warning signs nailed to the trees. Messages like, "Do not enter," and "Turn back now," were barely legible, covered in moss and decay. The group laughed nervously, dismissing them as remnants of old, abandoned myths. But Myrna couldn't shake off the growing sense of dread gnawing at her insides. The further they walked, the more the forest seemed to close in on them. They came across signs of something unnatural: deep claw marks on tree trunks, and carcasses of animals torn apart, their flesh shredded and bones scattered. The air was filled with the metallic scent of blood, and the forest was eerily silent, as if holding its breath. Panic began to set in when they heard guttural growls and saw fleeting shadows darting between the trees. The friends huddled together, their flashlights flickering as they scanned their surroundings. It was then that they realized they were not alone. Suddenly, grotesque, flesh-eating creatures emerged from the darkness. Their eyes glowed with a malevolent hunger, and their razor-sharp teeth glistened with fresh blood. The creatures were a horrifying mix of human and beast, with elongated limbs and clawed hands. They moved with terrifying speed and agility, circling the group like predators. The first attack was swift and brutal. One of the creatures lunged at Rachel, dragging her into the shadows before anyone could react. Her screams echoed through the forest, abruptly cut off by the sound of tearing flesh. The remaining friends were paralyzed with fear, but Myrna snapped into action, urging them to run. Chaos ensued as the friends ran for their lives, the creatures hot on their heels. The forest became a labyrinth of terror, with every turn presenting a new danger. John was the next to fall, his cries of agony blending with the unearthly growls of the creatures. Blood splattered across the leaves, marking the path of their desperate flight. Myrna, Alex, and Sarah pushed on, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. They stumbled upon an old, abandoned cabin, its door hanging off its hinges. With no other choice, they rushed inside, barricading the entrance with whatever they could find. The creatures clawed at the walls, their snarls filling the night. Inside the cabin, they found an old hunting rifle and a few rounds of ammunition. Myrna took charge, her survival instincts kicking in. She handed the rifle to Alex and grabbed a rusty axe for herself. The cabin provided little protection, but it was their only hope. The creatures broke through the barricade, and a fierce battle ensued. Alex fired at the creatures, the gunshots echoing through the forest.